All right, so back in the garage today with the Jeep. As you know, I put the new tires on, 33s, and that's got me a little bit of clearance issues. So one of the things I'm going to do, what the project I'm going to do today is put on some slightly taller shackles. These are Boomerang shackles, and I've just have the originals on there right now, and so it's time to add a little bit of height with the shackles. You never want to do too much, just a little bit. So we'll see how much it adds, and should actually help with the flex in the back as well, so which is a good thing. And this is not that difficult a project, so hopefully it'll go nice and smooth. So one of the things I just did was I measured from here at the sill down to the ground here in the garage, and I'm at exactly 24 inches from the body down to the ground. So we'll measure that when we get done and see how much of a lift we've got. I was almost kind of surprised. I'm very, very even front to back, which is a good thing. I like the nice even look. So we'll see how this ends up when we get these installed. All right, so here's the two shackles, the old one and the new one. This one is held up just fine, other than being a little rusty. You measure these from circle to center of the circles. So this one's 4 inches, and the new one here, if you measure that one out, it's 5 1/4. The angle is beneficial in the rear. It gives you some to move around the rear cross member of the frame, bumper kind of a thing. This is 5 1/4 inches from here to here. So you normally think, you're going to lift 1 1/4 inches, but actually it's only half of that because you're only lifting the shackle on one end of the spring. So this should lift the Jeep about 1/2 inch, give or take. So that's why I measured it at the beginning. We'll see how it turns out. All right, so the first thing you got to do is put the Jeep up on jack stands and high enough to take the pressure off of the spring. So you got to kind of get up higher than the droop, which my little normal everyday short jack stands, I had those little stands for them, still just barely able to hold it up. So once you get it up and the pressure off, you can just zip out the bolts. They're 19 millimeter bolts on either side. Mine, obviously they've been off before because I changed my suspension. I put a lot of grease on them so that they wouldn't seize. But one of the pluses in this kit is you get a new bushings for the upper ones. I don't really need them for the lower, I don't think. But you can see this one's a little oblong. So these ones are definitely done. These are original. So I'll get these swapped out, and we'll grease everything up and put it all back together again. All right, so I got the bushings out of the holes. They were really stuck in there. So you can see it, very rusted. I mean, these are original, so they were really stuck in. The trick I did is just a regular propane torch, torched around the outside, not the bushings itself, just around the outside to heat it up, and then used a hammer and knocked one half through, and then came back and knocked the other half through. And that worked pretty quick and easy. I mean, you need less than a minute with the torch around that, and then it comes right out. So these are no more. So I got new bushings, a new sleeve. We'll grease those up big time, get them slipped in there. And I also cleaned this up, because when you do use the heat, it does leave some rubber in there. So a little sandpaper, scraped it out, cleaned it up, and it's ready to go now. So this one is the biggest pain in the rear end. The bolts were put in from the this side going towards you, and so you can't take them out. So you have to just pop these back, and then I'll use a saw and cut these off to get these bolts out. Unfortunately, that's what you have to do. The front, piece of cake. The back, you got to cut them out, and then when I put the new ones in, I'll put them in going this way, and it'll be much easier. But that's the pain of this back side. Okay, so the good news is I finally got them all out here in the back. They were way more difficult when you can't just slide them out. And I did discover here on the passenger side, both of them had seized. So I wasn't getting any flex out of this side. So I had to cut through the sleeve and the bolt. that took a little time, and in fact I had to go to the store and get some more Sawzall blades, because that's the only thing that's going to reach, and I was wearing them out trying to cut through these bolts. So finally got those. On the driver's side, I was stuck. The bolt came out, but the sleeve stayed in, and that makes it even more difficult to get out in some ways. So I couldn't use fire. You can't torch it. I grabbed it and then realized I can't do it because the gas tank's right there. So and you can't really get around the hole because the hole's in the middle of the frame right there. So you can't heat it up from the outside. So it's a bit of a pain. I sprayed them down and have come back this morning. But the other trick is, and you can see here, I just took a drill bit and drilled out the rubber all the way around. Just kept drilling it until it weakened it up enough, and then I could push out the sleeve so it wasn't stuck in there anymore. But clearly I did not quite have enough lube in there, and the old ones were not, they didn't have any Zerk fittings, so you couldn't add any lube, and luckily the new ones do. So the new ones shouldn't have that problem as long as you're taking care of them. So they're all out, they're all cut off, they're all ready to go. I'll lube up all the new stuff and get them all put in. I'll also notice the spring is right there. I have it on jack stands, but it's just not high enough, so I'm gonna have to use the jack here on the back and lift it up. I got to get new jack stands now that I'm a little taller. So making progress. All right, you got to grease these things up so you don't run into those problems. I just use a cut-off Q-tip, inside and outside, and I just, more the better. There we go. Oops. All right, now we got the sleeve, and definitely more the better on this, for heaven's sakes, after seeing how much they got stuck in there last time. And I will say, you know, those were original. I did not replace these upper ones when I did my suspension. I just left them in, and probably should have pulled them, I guess. All right, I had to jack up the body a little bit to get this to line up, and get this greased up. Get it in there. With the nut on the inside, I can actually remove these again if I wanted to. All right, so now they're all put together just loosely, and 19 millimeters, and you do the middle one that's just a support. That's 55 foot-pounds of torque. These ones on the outside are only 30. They're not really super tight. If you over tighten them, you're going to lose the flexibility that you need, or the motion. All right, so now it's the moment of truth. We'll see how much this actually lifted the Jeep. And what do you know? An inch, maybe a little bit over an inch. Way more than I would have thought. And we'll take one up here at the front here, as far up as I can go. Sure if that's an inch too. So apparently we got a little more than I anticipated. All right, so after putting those shackles on, I realized you have to do a little wheel adjustment or steering adjustment. The steering wheel was completely out of whack. I forgot to record any of that. Hopefully you know how to do that. It's pretty easy with switching the bars. Maybe I'll do a video on that at some point. But since I was in the garage and I got it squared away, got the steering wheel back squared center, I decided I'd figure out if I'm going to rub or not, where I'm at on this. So I'm lucky right now. I've got the motorcycle lift and my regular lift, so I lifted up, got the motorcycle lift underneath there. It's nice because it holds the wheel really well. Right now that is 15 inches off the ground, and which is a pretty decent amount of flex. and I am not rubbing yet. So I'm still just a little bit away, maybe a ½ inch away from rubbing right there. Well, maybe not half, maybe a little less than half. But in the front, no problems, just here in the back. So that's pretty good. Pretty happy with that. I had to stop because it was going to hit my garage door. I'm too tall now. So pretty happy with the way this is. That's a lot of flex right there. Still could touch, but I think it's pretty slim chance. So right up in there deep. And my bump stops, I just have the original bump stops, and I don't know if you can see those bump stops up in there. Maybe just, oh, right there. So it's still quite a ways away from the axle. It's kind of out of play at this point. I guess I could go to some larger bump stops to keep it from bumping, but I'll have to look into that. So thanks for watching. Really happy with the ride quality. I was shocked at how much better the ride quality is with these greased up brand new Shackles. Really not as bouncy. I mean, it's so much more smooth. So if you haven't greased your Shackles in a while, go do it. It's super impressive change in the ride quality on the road. I can hit a speed bump and not knock my teeth out, which is great. So thought I'd share that too, and we'll see you next time.